We are live from the OhioHealth Ice House in downtown Columbus. It's day 4 of the 2024-25 Columbus Blue Jackets Training Camp presented by OhioHealth. You know this guy, Jody Shelley. I'm Steve Mears, honored to be with you. I guess this is our first broadcast, really of any kind.
Have we never been on the air
We've
together?
never really been on the air together other than the demo when I auditioned for this job.
I thought we did NHL Network a little bit.
Yeah, that's a show. Well, it's kind of different, you know? That's a studio show. Anyway, I'm honored to be here. Thanks to everybody worldwide for joining us online. And here's the plan. Here's what we're going to be doing. We're just here having fun, watching what will be a scrimmage. We've got 2 20-minute periods, stop time, a lot of youth on both sides with this scrimmage here today. Jody, we got fans here. The place is packed.
Yeah.
Fans all along the glass and on the far side. The stands are packed. You love to see it. Everybody fired up for the start of the Blue Jackets season.
There's the DJ. You can see the weather out here in Columbus. It's been a beautiful week. I don't think we've had rain. I think it's been over 2 months since we have rain, and it's just been outstanding golf weather. And these guys, though, Steve, this is their 4th day of camp, so they're in it now.
Yeah, exactly. Stinger is here. He was just wandering around. And, yeah, fans of all ages just having a great time here at the Ice House. And we're going to be just having a conversation, really. It's going to be a lot like how we watch practice. You know, you sit in the stands, you see what's going on with the team, you watch some of the drills. I'm just happy, though, we got game action today.
Yeah.
Everybody, enough with the drills. I mean, I like my share of drills and seeing what the guys are doing. That's what they have been doing on this ice surface for the last 3 days. But now you get to see a little bit of game action as they go head-to-head here this afternoon.
Yeah. And don't forget to set your fantasy football roster as we get through this.
That's
here
true,
today.
too, yes.
But, yeah, there's Jack Greaves. So this is how they've conducted practice the first 3 days and into today is the goaltenders will go out with the goaltending coaching crew, and they'll each just take very easy shots. And I kind of get the sense as this camp has started with Dean Evison that it's not a grinding, grueling camp. It's not come in and like, okay, I'm going to set the tone with the pace and the intensity and really try to grind these guys. And I like that philosophy because I was just walking here into the rink from the game rink to the practice rink here with Elvis Merzlikins, who's on the ice too. And I asked him how camp was, and he said it's been good because, you know, you don't want to get the sore hips, sore groins, sore shoulders in your first 5, 6, 7 days, maybe your first week of practice. The season is long, it's grueling. These guys know the intensity has to be there, but they haven't pounded them too hard, and I really like that approach here.
Just in talking with Dean Evison, I think the other day he used the word teach about 5 times. A lot of teaching that's going on right now. And there's also a lot of fun. We're seeing smiles on the faces with the guys. Yesterday they were playing a really cool shootout game where the players all lined up along the bench side. They raised their sticks like to place a bet as if they thought the guy was going to score.
Yeah.
And when he didn't, they had to do a lap. So they were just having some fun, that sort of thing. And I mentioned today a lot of youth in the 2 lineups that we're going to see. A lot of players from Cleveland who went on that incredible run to Game 7 of a conference final in the American Hockey League last year. And also several of the draft choices from the 2024 draft. 3 of the 6 will be in the lineup today, including Charlie Ellick, the second-round draft choice. So players starting to hit the ice right now. You're taking a look at some of the goaltenders. Now some of the skaters are filtering out there. And as I mentioned, 2 20-minute periods, stop time, and some game action. And see if the guys can show off their skills in a game setting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in camp, you know, you always wanted to get to that first scrimmage. And it's kind of, the general manager, his staff, the scouts, they're here watching. And there's some spots available on this Blue Jackets roster. They got some veterans now in camp with Jack Johnson, James Van Riesdyk, Sean Monahan. It's been one of the youngest teams in the league now for a long time, Steve. So I like having that veteran presence, but also Cole Sillinger's going into his 4th year now in the National Hockey League. You know, that's kind of when you have it figured out. And for him, it's going to be a big season, but also when you look at now the center depth, you've seen him practicing on the wing. You've seen Boone Jenner practicing on the wing. You know, that's not where they want to be. They'll play wherever they're asked to play, but that just comes from the depth of now having Monahan in the mix, Fantilli healthy, Voronkov, where is he going to fit in on this lineup? And I think Dean Evison, you talk about teaching, this is a group now that's had 3 coaches, actually 4 if you count Babcock, we're in his little spot there, but really 3 in the last 3 years, 3 different systems. So, Evison hopefully keeps it simple, which I think he does. He's old school. He wants the work ethic and intensity there. And I really like the atmosphere around this camp with these guys.
I do too. And just talking with Sean Corrali, he said we went right into systems work, and he doesn't remember that being the case this early in training camp. And I believe it's been special teams too every day so far. A little bit of power play and PK. So Dean Evison, he is diving right in with, as I said, teaching and just trying to get some instruction out there. And now we're going to get into a scrimmage today. There are 8 preseason games. He also mentioned that one of the common refrains over the years with a player who maybe didn't make the team is, oh, I wasn't given a fair shot. I wasn't given a fair shot. You got 8 preseason games here. Everybody's getting some level of a shot to show off what they can do. It starts here today, and then the preseason kicks off officially tomorrow in Buffalo with a 5 o'clock game. 8 preseason games. So especially for these young guys, bubble guys, maybe they got a cup of coffee, maybe they're right there knocking on the door, had a good year in Cleveland last year. The chance is right in front of you to prove what you can do, that you can play in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to make a cut here quickly, I think. They're going to cut it. There's only 2 groups, which I really like. Yeah. Under 60 players in camp. Looks like they have 6 goaltenders. There's a lot of pieces, and the value of last year's run in Cleveland, going as far as they did. Yeah, the experience they had together, how close-knit as a group they are. Then you have young draft picks there now, like this kid, Alec, who we just saw hit the stage in Vegas a couple months ago. His first training camp here with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and those are the guys that are going to get that look. And you're right, the preseason game, like, you're kind of against each other in camp until you get into preseason game. Then you feel like, all right, we're on the same team, the atmosphere of a game day. You're pulling for each other in front of your fans. And, that's when things start to shift, I thought, in camp, was when you got to get into preseason game, and it was your opportunity to be with a group that could win a game, which is important, but also show what you can do. So these guys are tuned in here. And as I look out here, these guys are, I mean, you mentioned the fans. The Blue Jackets fans, man, I'm telling you. And I think you know this already, Steve.
Yeah.
They love their sports teams here in Columbus, Ohio, and they love their Columbus Blue Jackets.
It is a special place. I've seen it firsthand. I've only been here not even a month, and the fans have been so incredibly welcoming. I've told you the story about the neighbors in our neighborhood. The day we moved in, came out and introduced themselves on the driveway. I've lived a whole bunch of places before. I've moved a bunch of times. I don't recall that ever happening,
is that
not
right?
even close.
Good.
So that's the typical Ohio hospitality. And I knew that back at Bowling Green when I was going to college, and now to see it again here in Columbus, it's just fantastic. So it's an honor to be here, honor to be with you, Jody, and the guys going through the warm-up right now. Why don't we focus on some of these players? I mean, there's a kid right there that I'm going to be watching today and throughout the preseason. Denton Matejchuk got into some of the game action in Buffalo at the Prospect Challenge, and right away, Jody, wow, I was so impressed. The second game against Boston, a dazzling setup, no-look, backhand pass to Luca Del Belbaluz for the overtime game-winning goal. Huge numbers in the Western Hockey League, as you see at the bottom of the screen with Moose Jaw. Not the biggest defenseman, but a whole lot of skill and a whole lot of upside.
Yeah, I like watching him skate. He's a really good skater, but also he makes plays look easy. And the compliment of defenseman, if you don't notice a guy out there, say for the first, you're watching a game and you're like, oh yeah, Matejchuk, I wonder how he's doing. That means he's doing very well. Because there's a quietness to his game. I like how efficient he is out there when he's going to get pucks, pick up pucks, and then make a quick play. He seems to do everything right. And there are defensemen in the National Hockey League where you really need to get an appreciation for them by talking to their teammates. And I think watching this kid, if you're going to watch him closely, that's what he does very well. He keeps the game quiet. He's got a very good skill set. He looks strong on his skates. He's got a really good deep. He really sits into his stride, And he's here. He's here to make the team. And, I don't know what's going to shake out, but for the Blue Jackets, we've heard about Matejchuk for a couple years now. He's played junior for a few years and been a star. But he's now part of a very deep, young D-corps.
Let's stay on the blue line. How about that kid, Charlie Alec? You referenced him earlier. Jody, 36th overall. One of those 3 draft choices this past summer, still 18 years of age. He doesn't turn 19 until January of the next calendar year. But this is another kid who really impressed me in Buffalo at the Prospect Challenge. I love the whole skill set to have this much size at this age and to be a right shot, which, as we know, is a unique commodity in the NHL, a hot commodity on the blue line. Has some numbers there offensively, but also has some bite, too. He dropped the gloves in the second Prospect game against the Boston Bruins. So I see some jam. I see the size. He's got the tools to be an NHL defenseman.
Yeah, Western Canadian kid, and he's big. I like that he fought. I think he fought the other kid from Western Canada. They were buddies, and they fought in junior because they played against each other. So, you know, he's a guy to me. I haven't really seen him much on the ice. I'm looking forward to seeing him today in a game situation. But, you know, he's a guy that understands kind of what he has to bring. And there's a lot of teams that are looking for that physical, fearless defenseman. And I feel like Alec, he has that in him. And I always love a guy, Mearsy, who doesn't mind dropping the gloves.
I know, of course.
Entertainment out there. I don't think we'll see it today, but hey, you never know.
It's funny you bring that up. I know you can speak to this. Even I remember when I broke into the league a while ago, usually there were a good amount of training camp fights. And I'm not even talking like the old school days. Of course, there were a ton.
Right.
But it seemed like there was always a guy who might have been in ECHL. Like his only path was to run amok in training camp and take a run at the veterans, and he would just make everybody furious at him. But he would open some eyes, and he knew that was the only way he was going to get noticed by everybody. I don't see that as much now, but you never know. It's going to be a scrimmage and going to be some contact out there.
I used to fight early in my career until Doug McLean came down, who was the general manager at the time. He would come down to the bench, lean over the rail here at the Ice House and be like, "Shelly, we know you can fight. Show us if you can play."
Well, you were a known commodity. I mean, everyone he was right. Everyone knew you were tough.
I remember someone ran somebody. Was it somebody took a shot at Rick in camp? And I went out there and, hey, Don. I went out there and went right after that. Actually jumped on the ice. Would have been too many men, but it was camp.
It was
so
camp.
I just ran.
There's hardly any rules.
You know? So I just ran out there and got it done. Here, let me sit right here.
Welcoming in our guests. We're going to have a host of guests for you here throughout the scrimmage. As we said, we're keeping it casual and conversational, and having fun. Our first guest is going to be Blue Jackets General Manager, President of Hockey Operations, Don Waddell. Done a great job constructing this team and getting this team ready for training camp. Don's got the headset on. And as you watch the players, they continue to warm up. We're getting ready for the scrimmage. And we'll welcome you back to our broadcast location here at Center Ice at the Ice House. Don Waddell, kind enough to join us. So good to see you. How's everything going?
It's been good. The pace of practice has been really good. You know, the atmosphere has been terrific so far, and you know, we're just anxious to start playing some games.
Well, I've noticed with Dean, it hasn't been like a grinding skate test, beat him to the ground kind of camp, and that has to be by design, right?
Yeah. You know, if you watch his drills, most of his drills are pretty always skating. Like he doesn't believe in just, you know, the old days where you and I had to go blue line back and forth all the time. He most of his drills he does has a lot of skating in it, so it's a little disguised. But I think the pace has been very good. The guys are in great shape, you know, by the testing results, and just anxious to get going.
How has it been for you? Because I just kind of thought back, like it's been a whirlwind to come in and learn the organization. A lot of these players, I don't know if you've seen until maybe prospects camp, and even the veteran guys you've seen a little bit. So how is it now to be 4 days in to have, this is kind of what you've been waiting for, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's nice to be in the locker room and put a name and face together. You know, I still don't know all the guys. I mean, I know the main guys for the most part, but a lot of the young kids, you know, it's still, you know, like, who is that? But that's a fun part about it, you know, being around the room and just meeting all the guys for the first time, and you know, there's a lot of excitement. You know, we know that we're going to have some hard days at times, but right now there's a lot of excitement around the room, and it's fun to be in there.
Just before you hopped on, Jody and I were talking about how just in the last 10 years or so, how training camps have changed. And I remember early days of my career, there would always be one or two that would stir the pot a little bit. You might see some scraps in training camp. Think back to your first training camp as a manager. How has it changed here this time of year?
Well, I think it used to be, when you go to training camp, a lot of guys trying to prove who they are, what they do for a living. And I don't want to speak for Jody because
I know what I did, Don.
yeah, I'm sure I do too. But,
so did Doug McClain.
But no, it's changed. The whole fitness thing. I can remember back my first year going to training camp in 1980 as a player. I remember Bob Berry asking how many guys haven't been on the ice yet, and 40 guys out of 50 guys hadn't skated all summer because you didn't train like that. Now the players train. They take some time off the end of the year and they train. So training camps looked at differently now. Training camp used to be to get in shape. That's not the case anymore. Now guys come in great condition. You can more work on your skills.
Talking with Blue Jackets General Manager and President of Hockey Operations, Don Waddell. How do you watch? You're up and you're watching the players and the drills. What are some of the things that you are keeping an eye on?
The biggest thing is I like to see in the drills the skating, the puck handling. You start getting in a game situation, you can start talking more about the hockey smarts. Does the player have it or not? But in all the drills that we do during practice, the biggest thing is you want to see how guys move. I like to watch the defensemen. Since I was a defenseman, how do they pivot, how they turn, and it's more of a learning curve for me right now with all the new players.
We were talking about Matejchuk, and I haven't seen him very much, but am I wrong to say that the compliment to him is the quietness in his game?
You nailed it, Jody, because everything's under control. Everything's under control. I watched his first game pro in Cleveland last year when he came up there in the playoffs. And about the first shift on the ice, second time he had the puck, he snaps that puck. And I like defensemen in particular that pass the puck with a purpose, and he does that. But you're right. There's no panic to his game. He's, keeps it very simple, but he's always under control.
Well, then I want to switch to Juracek because I watch him, and I admire. He's almost like a racehorse that you have to pull back a little bit. And when you pull back a racehorse, they want to go harder. I know he went last year and he developed a little bit better in the second half of the season with the Cleveland Monsters. Do you feel that this kid now is ready to take that step from what you know? That quietness, I feel like maybe he needs a little of that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, you're probably right, because he does like to go. And, watching him last year, the 5 or 6 games I saw, I liked what I was seeing. I'd heard some reports before about some of the things, how it happened. But, it's hard on a player, I don't care who the player is, to be up and down a lot, too, and just because of all the injuries here and everything that happened, that's what happened. But, this is a big opportunity for him. As Dean has said multiple times, what you've done in the past or what's happened in the past, I don't care about. I'm going to form my opinion on what you do for me now, and I like that. And I think Juracek's one of those guys that's going to get that opportunity, and we're all hoping he takes that next step forward.
Yeah, and he's a guy like everyone else that pushes himself pretty hard. How about the goaltenders? What are you seeing with them? They seem to be easing them into it too.
Yeah, no, the goaltending's been really good. The good thing is we're healthy.
Yeah,
and that's the first step. And then, again, you got the 2 guys that are here. You got Greaves that's going to compete for a job. What he did last year in the American League was incredible. And then the young kids, they've all done a good job. And that's like, we brought Oster, the kid, the tryout kid. We brought him here because he's so good in Buffalo. And, it's nice to have that kind of goaltending. And, I think that's a bright spot for our future.
Well, Don, you've done a great job in leading this franchise in your short time here already. We'll let you go watch the scrimmage. I know you got some players to evaluate here, but thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit.
No, always a pleasure, but you guys look forward to seeing you during the upcoming games.
Can't wait to get going. Big thanks to Blue Jackets General
Don.
Manager, President of Hockey Operations, Don Waddell. He will head to his perch and evaluate the scrimmage, which is underway. And as we said, Jody and I are just having some fun and keeping this very conversational. We're hanging out with the fans upstairs at the OhioHealth Ice House. 2 teams, 20-minute periods, stop time, and the word is also penalties are going to be 1-minute power plays. So switching things up a little bit and getting a look at some of the future, the youth in the organization, several players who were key players for the Cleveland Monsters in the American Hockey League that were, Jody, 1 shot away from going to the AHL final. Luca Del Bel Ballou's trying to sneak one in.
I'm surprised he missed. That's a kid that just scores goals. Scored on his first National Hockey League shift last year out of the penalty box. It's a great story. His parents were in the building, but in the elevator when they got the notice on their app that he had scored the goal.
Against the Carolina Hurricanes, right?
I mean, and watching him in camp, it's just he's got a knack to put the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah, I was talking with him up in Buffalo, and he said he studies Austin Matthews a lot. Like a lot of these guys that want to score goals, it seems like Austin, and rightfully so, is the guy that they study. I go back to that first NHL goal. That was kind of Matthews-like. And then he scored that overtime goal that Matejchuk set up against Boston in the second Prospect Challenge game. He said that was another Austin Matthews move. Take it left circle as the goalie's sliding across, go 5-hole, just like the Toronto Maple Leafs superstar does. Kanazko, one of those players from Cleveland, and so many from Jet Greaves on out, Jody, that must have a ton of confidence coming in after the run that they had. And it didn't end the way they wanted it to. Really disappointing. They almost overcame a 3-0 deficit, rallied just to force a Game 7, lost Game 7 overtime against the Hershey Bears. But just to have a run like that, they had to be feeling really good going into the offseason.
Well, this organization really turned when the American Hockey League team, the Lake Erie Monsters, won the Calder Cup in 2015. And Zach Werenski left Michigan and was a part of that group. And you know, you kind of get a sense with these people, these kids that we see now that are up here and have been down there grinding, that might help this Blue Jackets team take that next step earlier. I know they didn't win, but it was a great experience for them, the way they got in the playoffs, the way they got seated where they wanted to be, and how they really gutted out that last series and made it a big series.
Racing down the left wing was Owen Sillinger. He was with Cleveland last year. Jody, you talked about Cole Sillinger just in a couple of drills, just watching it. He looks like he's got a little extra hop in his step, and he's entering this training camp with a purpose.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk of his skating when he got drafted, but there's no question. He's a young man that's worked at it. Great that he's got his brother Owen here. He's known that family for a long time, and they're just great people. Mike and Carla Sillinger. Their brother Luke plays out in Arizona for Arizona State.
Are we going to see Mike here, aside from just the dad's
He might be here.
He might be here now? Really?
No.
Oh, he might be tuned in, though. I mean,
yeah, I think he is.
He loves the game.
Yeah, so, I mean, and Owen I've watched him in practice. He's quick. He's got good hands. He works hard. So I hope he gets a chance here with a few preseason games.
6 points in that AHL postseason run out of Bemidji State. Owen Sillinger. Yeah, Cole looks explosive to me. I've seen him in glimpses just on television and watching Blue Jackets games the last couple of seasons, but had a pretty strong finish to the regular season last year. And then coming into this training camp, I see a little extra hop in his step, like a powerful stride from Cole Sillinger. So that's encouraging to me.
Well, it's interesting, like the path of your career, right? You come in as a young, highly drafted prospect, and he had a really good first year. Then he got injured his second year, right in camp. First drill, I remember, he got a concussion. And he was chasing the game the entire season. And then last year, he defined his role. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Evison, the new coach again. I think of this guy, 3 years, 3 new coaches, or 4 years, 3 new coaches. But for him, face-off guy, kill penalties, and then everything else is extra. That's at least he's got that baseline to grow from, right?
Right.
Next goal is power play. Next goal is top line, whatever it is. But right now, when he goes into a game or a practice, he knows what he's working on.
Steve Mears and Jody Shelley with you here from day 4 of Columbus Blue Jackets training camp presented by OhioHealth. We've got 15-20 to go in our first half and have yet to get a goal. A lot of youth in the lineup, players from Cleveland, high draft choices recently in the Blue Jackets organization. This dump in, sent in deep all the way into the zone off to our left from Jordan Harris, who was a part of the Patrick Laine trade. There's a loose puck in front. Pano Fimis is able to bury it. And I wanted to talk about this kid because he's earned this opportunity. He opened some eyes up in Buffalo at the Prospect Challenge. Huge numbers in Erie of the OHL. Last 3 years he's played in the O. 76 points in 68 games.
Yeah, that whole play started right in front. Great shot in front, off the goaltender. You can see right after that, it's just a mess, and there's Owen Sillinger, but Finnis is the one that gets the puck and gets it in the back of the net, but it was a quick shot and a flurry of action in front of the net. You don't usually see that much time and space, but that shot broke things down.
Not the biggest player. He's 5'11", 183, but one of those guys undrafted, and you wonder if the Blue Jackets found a hidden gem there in Pano Fimis. 76 points in 68 games. He was the top scorer for the Erie Otters a season ago.
He's from Ontario, and then the kid who shot the puck was Luca Pinelli.
And there's another kid with a
quick
ton
hands.
of junior numbers. I mean, huge. 82 points for Pinelli, who's third in the OHL in goals with 48. Pinelli, fourth-round draft choice. He's only 19 years of age. You forget about how young some of these kids are. I mean, I talked about Charlie Ellick, Evan Gardner, one of the goaltenders. He's 18 years of age. How about David Juracek? He just graduated high school back home. He was telling the media the other day, it took him a while to get back here to the States because he was finishing up high school.
Oh, good. It's an important degree to have.
A lot of talent on the ice, as Jake Christensen is smoothly going to skate through the neutral zone. Got a new contract in the offseason. Try to drop it off for Luca Del Bel Belouz. Charlie Ellick going to pinch in aggressively. Ellick's becoming one of my favorites already, Jody.
Yeah,
I like the jam.
assertiveness. Yeah.
I like the jam. I think that like in today's game, you have to have some heaviness on the blue line. The Blue Jackets certainly have that, and they have it in the pipeline too. Here comes Owen Sillinger. Sillinger tried to pass across. It's picked off. Here's a name we have not mentioned yet, and I want to rave about this kid because he's really opening a lot of eyes. Gavin Brindley. Saw him just a bit last season at the NHL level with the one game, but University of Michigan, and he continues to shine here from Buffalo and now to the start of this training camp. Really impressive.
Yeah, he's part of that class that came out of Michigan. He's got speed, he's got quickness, he's hard on pucks, and he's got finish to his game. And this would be one of those games where you'll see him, you'll notice him with the puck, because it seems to be a little wide open here.
Really skilled, second-round draft choice, 2023, 19 years of age. Big Ten Player of the Year last year, Gavin Brindley. I just love the craftiness. I mean, he goes in, he gets pucks left and right. Great hands and some scrappiness to his game, too, for a guy who's undersized. David Juracek is going to bank it off the glass, and it's out to center ice. Got a 1-0 score on a goal from Pano Fimis, the 20-year-old undrafted out of the OHL. Sean Corrali's out there. There are a few veteran players. Should mention Corrali being one of them. Luca Pinelli's shot is going to be denied. Sean Corrali's in the lineup here today for the blue team. On the white team, Jody, we got Jack Johnson. Good to see him back. Second stint with the Jackets, and now a Stanley Cup champion with the Colorado Avalanche a couple of seasons ago. It's good to see Jack back here.
So important to have those veteran guys in the locker room. And not only do they help the young guys, they help guys like that have been there. Corrali, Goodbranson, Werenski, Jenner. They welcome to have these players to bring other thoughts and ideas and just approaches to the locker room.
And how about that Stanley Cup? It obviously is worth mentioning, but just to have Stanley Cup winning experience.
Oh, yeah.
To have that in your organization. If you want to try to change culture, we've seen it before with teams like Florida. I know Nashville's really trying to do that. They are specifically going out and acquiring guys who won the Stanley Cup and can bring that type of attitude to their franchise.
Yeah.
And Jack Johnson brings that and was a key part of that Avalanche blue line 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, and you know, you can coach, you can read books, you can explain to people, but
oh, there's a little sneaky deflection that was sitting on the goal line. We got a good look at that one.
I thought it was in.
I thought it might have been in.
I was going to say about Jack Johnson, James Van Riemsdyk, and Sean Monahan, you know, when you're in game, there's that puck. Oh, nice save there. Clayton with the save. When you're in game, and you just have a quick question for one of your teammates, it's so much more impactful, I think. Or he has something for you on the bus, in those quiet areas that you're kind of wondering things. That's why I like the guys that have won the Stanley Cups or have been in deep runs or have been around a while, because that helps, and it's hard. You can't measure the impact of that.
James Van Riemsdyk is not in the lineup today, but did get a one-year deal last week. He's a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets and did play in a Stanley Cup final and started with you, sir.
Well, that was a body check. Yeah.
Philadelphia Flyers. He was talking about all the great influences that he had early on in his career. JVR, mention your name, rightfully so.
Spent a lot of time with JVR. Yeah. He was a young kid. We had Pronger, Timonen. Giroux was a young kid with JVR, and JVR came in as a second overall pick behind Patrick Kane. And it was just a wonderful year. And I remember being a young guy like James and the impact of my older guys on me. So, we're still friends to this day. We talk every summer. During the season we talk. I'll have questions because, the way coaches break things down, and for our job, those players, the way they break it down, what they see on power plays, it's remarkable how many different ways you can see this game.
JVR was very appreciative of all the lessons that you passed on to him.
Oh, yeah.
He was very appreciative. Not just you. It was, as you said, Chris Pronger. On that team, Danny Briere, Brian Boucher. Like, how lucky was he?
Yeah,
he got a crash course right away as a high pick coming in, and you guys showed him the ropes. And now, ironically, he's passing that along, and he will this season to guys like Adam Fantilli and the young players with the Jackets.
I remember when the Shen brothers got excited when there was kale on the buffet. I think that was 2011. Kale.
Oh, God.
And we were like, come on,
guys.
Let's
where are the buffalo wings?
Let's go get a pizza and a beer. But they were that excited.
That is like talking about what Don mentioned with the training. And now it's insanity. Like, these guys come in, and there's not one guy out of shape.
Good to see you, man.
Not one guy out of shape. They are all ready. They've been training all summer. Many have been on the ice for a good portion of the summer, and the diet and the sleep habits and the hydration. I mean, needless to say, very different than your early days.
Well, we were pretty we were in shape. We didn't go to camp just to get in shape. I couldn't imagine that. I mean, that must have been like, what a summer you'd have. Hey, Trent. Welcome in, Trent Vogelhumer, head coach of the Cleveland Monsters.
Yeah, that was about the only thing I did well was training camp fitness testing.
Yeah, you were good.
So I always enjoyed that. That was a chance to pop off a little bit. But
we skated together here.
We did
before camp. That's right. I was in San Jose or Philly. Maybe both.
Yep. Yeah. When I was young, trying to come in out of college, and looked up to you from day one.
Right on.
Yeah. So it was pretty fun.
Well, we went hard, and I was always we didn't have the biggest group here, but we had some good skaters.
It's good to see now the summertime skates with pro hockey players in Columbus and college hockey players. I wish it was there back because they're so much higher quality and just gets you ready to go. We were pushing hard, but there weren't the number of players they have now. They've got really good skates now, which is great to see.
Did you travel to skate anywhere when you played?
A little bit. I would go to Toronto right at the end of the season, end of the summer before training camp started, just again to ramp the pace up. We just didn't have the numbers here early on, but no need for that anymore. No need for that with the amount of guys here.
Now, are you doing the NHL coaching clinics? Have you done that?
Yes, just I've done them the last 3 years at the draft, which it's been outstanding. And I just, as a coach, you're coming in, you feel like, and you do have so much to learn, and you're at the tables with all these NHL, Hall of Fame coaches, Stanley Cup winners, and you just, I still to this day, all I do is just ask a million questions, probably way too many. They probably get annoyed with me, but I just want to soak up every bit of information I can, and I've gotten a lot of value out of those, even if it's just meeting people and I ask questions and you develop relationships, and then you can call later on in the summer and have a real conversation with somebody that you met there. How have you handled this or whatever? A lot of coaches that now that I've really kind of dove into the craft that I look up to and get to meet them in person and learn from them. It's been great.
talking with Trent Vogelhuber, head coach of the Cleveland Monsters. The AHL is great getting to know you up in Buffalo at the Prospect Challenge. We've been talking a lot about some of your players who are out here and were part of the run to Game 7 of the conference final and the AHL playoffs a season ago. How important is that? It wasn't the outcome that you wanted, but just to build some confidence for some of these guys going into a brand new campaign.
Again, playoff hockey in the American League is such a big step for these guys' growth because it's a different level. I always say, you got the American League and the NHL, and the American League playoffs are somewhere in between that.
Oh, right.
It ramps up the speed and the physicality. It's outstanding, and our guys to have gotten the experience that they did, that's really our job. We want to win, and we were all pretty heartbroken that we didn't because we felt like we could. But for those guys who have gone through that 2+ month run. And the biggest thing I think that it just, in taking over in Cleveland, what we want to establish there is the expectation to win every night. And that's not a hard thing, that's not an easy thing to just say and do. You've got to go through it. Oh, there's a big one from Dents. But I think just that's what they established. And now going into the season, the guys that end up in Cleveland, a lot of them, now know that they can go toe-to-toe with the best players in our league, and, they have that expectation to win.
Let's talk some more right on cue. Denton Matejchuk, wow, this kid, so impressive.
Yeah, he's the kind of D that comes in and makes you look like a better coach. He's such a natural hockey player with his IQ, the level of execution, which is a big thing usually for kids coming out of junior and college, to execute with the pace that you need in pro and to do it way more often than you don't. He executes at such a high level. He came in and joined us in the conference finals against Hershey, and I remember asking him if he could play the offside in his second pro game, right? And it's the elimination game against, the best team in the history of the American League. Yeah, no problem. And that we didn't notice him one shift out there. He did it so naturally. I think that just tells you how smart he is and how much poise and confidence he has in himself. And he's going to be a really good pro player for a long time.
When you watch the games, now I want to go back to the coaching seminar because you've dove right into this. Javi now is with the Blue Jackets. He's gone up. He was a great assistant coach for you.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself, because I find there's so much information, I just try to put myself in that situation, and you think like, if we do this, if we change this, you kind of not reinvent the game, but you can get a little bit ahead of yourself. Do you find yourself being very, very disciplined with how you want to play and kind of your baseline for what you expect from your guys?
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. No coach is reinventing the game of hockey, right? And it's
except Hitchcock.
Sure. He maybe did originally, right?
Yeah.
But you study it, you talk to people, and you find the details that are important for you to emphasize. I think that's the biggest thing for coaches is you picking on a day-to-day basis and from game to game the areas and points that are going to be keys for you and that your team needs to establish, and developing those foundational points. It's not 30 of them, right? It's 5 and then you can build off of those, but those things can never change. And if you do these 3 to 5 things better than anybody, we're going to have success, and guys can lean into that. And then of course you can tweak some of the more minute details off of that, but the foundational things that you talk about and build with your group from day one, they really don't change as the season goes along. And it's not, I think there's a lot of you can get in your head and you can overcoach. And these players at this level, they're such smart hockey players. Yeah. They don't need direction all over the ice. It's not wide receiver routes, right? In football. There's definitely, we want to have spots on the ice so we can play fast and be predictable for sure, and that includes offensively. But we want to I think there's a balance. You need to let the guys play, and that's why they're here, because they're the best players in the world. So it's finding that balance of making sure that we're predictable, we're in we're in some spots, but then they got to use their skill off of that, which is what they all have.
So predictable in the offensive zone. Give me an example of that.
Sure, yeah. So the big thing, we want to get the puck back as quick as possible, and we want to make the rink small in the offensive, make the rink big in the offensive zone. So first thing, we get on the puck, and we need two-man support, but our F3 should be right on that dot lane when the puck's in the corner. So our guys, when they get the puck on their stick, we want to make the rink big and make the defensive unit try to expand and open up ice, right? So we know when we have the puck on our stick, we can go up low to high to our defenseman. Yeah. We can bump it over maybe to the net front guy who can scoop it and go. You can slip it, and it should almost be blind. Our F3's job is to be there on that dot. On that dot. Okay. And then from there, he can bump it up to the point, either one. Or if you're under super pressure, you can rim it all the way out to the weak side D. Those are just fundamental outs for us in a puck battle. That's right. Good. And it's not complicated, but that's predictable. So we know when we get the puck on our stick how we're going to get it out of that corner pile that every defensive zone coverage is trying to shrink. And then we build from there, right? When we do get it up to the point, what are our options off of there? And we can, you can go D to D, you can hinge, and maybe we pop our F3 high. And there are some routes that we can go through, but the players get to pick, and that's what I'm talking about. You've got you set the base, you set the foundation, and you give them some options that you think are going to work. And depending on what D-zone coverage, you might say, hey, they really struggle with three eyes. So when we do make the zone big, let's pop that F3 into this area, and you can try to exploit that. And that's what I mean. That's a detail we might emphasize against a certain opponent in the offensive zone where you identify that's a weakness of theirs. But again, the fundamentals don't change. We want predictable outs so we can get the puck back. We want the puck on our stick way more often than not. So that's what it's all about.
And Trent, how important is that uniformity, that the AHL team is on the same page as the NHL team and having that same philosophy between Dean and yourself?
Well, again, our number one job is to make sure players are ready to come up and play in Columbus when their name is called, and so we want the least amount of thinking for them when that day comes, so they can come up and play. Again, a thinking hockey player is a slow and a poorer version of themselves, so we don't want them thinking too much. So they can just come up having confidence in the systems, what we're doing on face-offs and D-zone, and not have to worry too much, and then they can trust themselves and their preparation to go play. I think it's huge, and I think it's really changed over the last 5 to 8 years. I think almost most AHL teams, if not all of them, are doing that for that reason, and I think it's super smart.
Let me ask you, I know a few guys that came up, one of the things they always said about you was be where your shoes are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one guys will take with them forever and live that way, which is a great way to be. But is there a theme that you go through? You don't have to tell us what it is, but do you change themes each season, or do you get into those things?
No, yeah. So this is going to be my 7th year coaching.
And I'm
really? Yeah,
Holy
which is crazy. Which is crazy.
How old are you?
36.
Are you?
Yeah.
Young, man.
Well, it doesn't feel like it. But
it was the injuries, right? That's why you had to retire.
Well, yeah. Again, and I was getting slow. They were getting fast, but I had the bad knees. But
bad knees. That's right.
Yeah. Sorry, go back. What was your question again?
Just your philosophy on each season. Has it changed?
So foundation, as far as I hate to use the word culture because I think it's an overused buzzword, but my beliefs will not change. And I think that's probably 80% of what the team's built on is not going to change. And I'm still continuing to learn, and maybe over time some of those points might alter a little bit. But from right now, let's say from last year to this year, my core beliefs and the way we need to do things on a day-to-day basis aren't going to change. And that's 80% of what we do and how we run things and how we want our players to act. And now the other 20%, systematically, some details, absolutely from year to year, you have to learn, adapt, and alter those. But going back to what you talked about, bloom where you're planted. You got to be where your feet are.
Bloom where you're planted.
Nobody grows up dreaming to play in the American League, and we understand that, and that's okay. But in order to get to where you do dream of being, you have to take advantage of this. And I've been in the American League for a while, and you can go one of two ways. You can sulk and bitch and complain that you're not getting the opportunity, or you could take advantage of it. And it's still hockey careers are not long, right? When you compare it to other careers and life, and so you still want to take advantage, get better every day, and enjoy what you're doing with the group of guys that you have. And so we work hard, but I think it's so important that these guys, we make it fun for them. Whether we're coming off 2 losses or 7 wins in a row, like they need to enjoy getting to the rink and coming to work. That's the only way you're going to get better, is if you're passionate and you enjoy that. So I think it's so important what you said, that they are here 100% committed to the guys on their team today. Invest in that and do things the right way, and ultimately that will get them where they want to go.
Awesome. I want to ask you now about your check.
Yeah.
Because it was written when he went down, he wasn't happy. Okay, I'm all right with that.
Yep.
If he goes down and works.
Yep.
You see him in camp here the first 4 days. Where have you seen his growth since you met him?
Yeah, I think he's come a long way. And again, everybody forgets these kids are 18, and he's he's drafted.
We were just talking about that.
He's drafted obviously high. What was it, 6th or 4th? Gosh, sorry. Whatever it was, it's extremely high.
Yeah,
6th.
And so people just expect him to come in and make an impact in the NHL. That's so rare, right?
Yeah.
You've got the Fantillis and the Bedards that are one out of a couple hundred, but the majority of these players, especially defensemen, need time. And we say for defensemen, it takes 200 to 300 games before they know what they are as a pro. And so that's okay for him to spend time with us. I think the playoffs, he came to another level, and really the last 17 or so games, it's the best I've ever seen him play. And again, he's not a finished product. He's going to continue growing. I think he's got 150 pro games. Let's give him another 150 before you expect him to be maybe where he was drafted, right? We say that. I've told Yuri this too. We look at Victor Hedman's career. It was his 300th game, almost on the nose, where he became Victor Hedman. And before that, they're like, what is he? Where's he going to be as a pro? These kids are young. They're maturing on and off the ice, more importantly. Let's give them time to work through those things, get the reps in so they can learn those reads time and time again, just going through it, learning what it takes to be a pro. So at that 300 game mark, especially for a defenseman, he can be the sixth overall draft pick, and I believe he will be. But there's no rush for him, and he's going to get there. But players move at their own pace.
All right, that's it for the first half. I know you got work to do over there. What are you guys evaluating? I mean, the same thing we just talked with Don Waddell.
Wait a second. He'd be a great broadcaster, don't you think?
You think?
You ever want to fill in on Bally
Call
Sports?
me when you're sick.
You're doing quite well in your day
We'd
job.
love to have you,
don't mess
man.
around. You don't want to get in this business.
Yeah,
you're doing quite well.
Oh, well, thank you guys.
And you're
Thanks.
building
Great to
quite a
have you.
resume at a young age. So
I
very
appreciate
impressive
that.
stuff. Keep up the good work. And, I was going to ask you, we see you over there in the bleachers. You're watching some of these drills. Just real quick, what are you watching when you see some of the players out there?
Yeah, well, we're just, again, most of these players are, depth or players that are fighting for spots and players that might end up in Cleveland. So we're just evaluating guys that I had last year, how they look this year, how their bodies have changed a little bit over summer if they put the time in, and how that's transferring over to the ice, and then getting to know some new guys, habits, skill sets. We're just trying to, again, get our base level evaluation for everybody here. So kind of starting from square one here again at the beginning of the season, learning about new players and learning about our old players, where they're at now and how their summers have gone. So it's exciting.
We really appreciate you stopping by. Thanks very much, and all the best moving forward here with training camp.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, man. That was
Huber,
great.
the head coach
cheers, guys.
of the Cleveland Monsters of the AHL. We're getting set for the second half here from the OhioHealth Ice House. To give you a little scoring recap, we've been so busy chatting and talking about some great stuff there with Trent, but a couple of goals for the white team, Denton Matejchuk, and also Curtis Hall. Nice play there, just picking up some loose change on a rebound.
Yeah,
First
really,
goal here.
Yeah, that was the first goal, crashing the net. And then the shot there from Pinelli, and Finnis cleaned it up. You can see Sillinger actually had that second shot. The first one, Pinelli shot. These are just highlights from the first, I guess we'll call it a half here. Nice save there. Denil with the shoulder check. That's one thing for the goaltenders too. They've only played scrimmages, probably a few times. So trying to get back in their groove. And that was a play. Matejchuk in the right spot off of a beautiful passing play. But Olivier did a good job out there too, I thought. He had a couple moments himself carrying the puck. And, it's not a real physical, not highly intense. So, it's good for him to get out there and feel that puck as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I already told you. I've always been a big fan of Matthew Olivier. He's one of the toughest players in the NHL. But he can play. And he's just built perfectly for his role. He's going to be playing in a checking role, of course, and Matthew Olivier also is a great guy, too.
Yeah.
I've just talked with him over the years, just getting to know him a little bit. He's been so friendly with me as a visitor. And interesting story with his dad having played professionally, and he grew up all over the place, born in Mississippi and lived overseas and in Oklahoma City where his dad played, and all over. So just a fantastic story. And that's actually a pretty good segue, because we should mention a couple of injured players, and one of them is on a potential fourth line. That's Justin Danforth, who's dealing with a wrist injury, so he's not participating in training camp. But he is coming along, apparently stick handling, so he's making progress in his recovery from that injury. But that does tell me that there is an opening there on one of the wings on the quote-unquote fourth line. And also Caden Lindstrom, the 4th overall pick, and a cornerstone piece moving forward for this franchise. 4th overall this past summer, 2024. He dealt with a couple of injuries in junior.
Go Jackets.
But the team is being extremely cautious, and rightfully so, with Caden Lindstrom. But he's here, and he's getting to absorb the NHL lifestyle and what training camp is all about. So it's good to see him. I think it's really smart. Like, why would they rush such an important player for the Jackets' future? So very
I saw him
excited.
leaving the building there before this camp started, before today's practice started. So he's here, he's training, he's trying to get better, and that's good.
And that's enough. Justin Danforth injured. There's an opportunity for somebody potentially on that line. We're in between our two halves this afternoon from the OhioHealth Ice House, and we are thrilled to be joined by Rick Nash, who got a promotion on Friday, Director of Hockey Operations. Congratulations, Rick, on the new role. And thank you very much for joining us here in the broadcast booth. Thoughts on this new position?
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, it's not much is going to change from my day-to-day. You know, going to try to be around the team a little more, but still going to be following our prospects. I feel like we're at such an important part, you know, with our organization, with making sure that these prospects develop properly.
So you will still do what you had signed up to do this season?
Correct. Yeah, still gonna oversee the prospects and work with them. You know, and as we move forward, try to be more involved with the big club here.
Will you hire someone to be a player development, take your role?
Yeah, you know what? We haven't discussed that exactly yet. You know, right now we obviously have Tommy Cross doing a tremendous job with all our defensemen. We got Jarkko Ruutu, you know, working over in Europe with a lot of our prospects. So, you know, we'll see how it goes as we move forward and figure out where we can fill any holes.
How has Don been for you? You were part of the old, well, not the old, but the previous regime. You know, that's always a transition. How has he been for you?
Yeah, you know what? Don's been great. You know, obviously, I feel pretty lucky that Jarmo brought me in here and JD, and they opened the doors kind of to get my feet wet in the hockey ops department. So, you know, I owe a lot to them. But with working with Don has been great. It's just a different way of doing things. I think it's good for me to experience a different way. You know, he's going to be a fun guy to learn off of. So I think we're lucky to have Don Waddell here in Columbus, and for me personally to get a chance to learn off him.
Well, that's great that he came in for you, Nasher, and you know, kind of recognized to put you to the next level. So congratulations.
Yeah, you know, I'm honored. I think you're probably one person that can understand this, Jody, but we're Blue Jackets through and through, you know, and we gave up a lot to this organization, and you know, it's always nice when you get a little bit back. So I'm very grateful of Don making that decision.
When you were wrapping up your playing career, why management? You could have gone any different direction. You could have gotten in our business, could have been a coach, agent, whatever. Could have been away from the game. Yeah, could have done something completely different. Why management?
Yeah, you know, Steve, it's funny. Sometimes I'm driving back from Moose Jaw, and I ask myself the exact same question in the middle of December.
Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
And I think to myself, why am I just not in Florida on a beach? But, you know, the honest answer is as a player, I never got to get my name on the Stanley Cup. And, you know, that's obviously been a dream of mine since I was a kid. And, you know, and the second part of that is Jody can relate to this, but I think the fans of Columbus deserve a championship team, and I want to try to help in any way I can. You know, I didn't feel like coaching was the path for me. I was always interested in how teams were built under a cap situation, how different pieces of the puzzle kind of molded together, and got a chance to do that a couple times with Hockey Canada now, and you know, hopefully now just kind of help Don with any advice, any expertise I can lend them.
How was that experience with Hockey Canada World Championship? You didn't get the outcome, of course, you wanted, but you got to work with a whole bunch of different people. What was it like to be the GM there?
Yeah, it was great. We lost in a shootout, which was terrible in the semifinals, but that's the way the IHF game works. But the experience of getting to call all these different GMs and ask them permission to talk to their players, call all the different agents. Start to build relationships with other GMs. It was great. I got to work with Kyle Dubas there, and Scott Salmon that works for Hockey Canada. So all those experiences I try to gain and try to bring them back to Columbus and try to help the Blue Jackets here.
Isn't that like, I felt as a player, like you said, we're true Blue Jackets. I know you lived here in the off season every time you left, but isn't it funny? I don't know if you had the same feeling. I'm assuming this, but you always keep like an eye on the Blue Jackets. Doesn't matter where you were. You were in Boston, you were in New York. You're always wondering what's going on, right? And then you learn from those organizations or those situations you've been in now recently with Hockey Canada or different people like Doan, right? He was a GM previous to you. He has a different way of doing it. But isn't it funny when you come back and now you're part of a team that can impact this organization? It's nice to have that library or that experience built up where you can actually see it fitting in here. Because not all of it's going to work, but some of it's going to fit in here with this organization. I think Don's smart for having you to do that.
Yeah, well, the first part of that was always bringing things back to Columbus, and you're right. No matter what, when you leave town, when you spend as much time as you and I did here, and kind of almost from the start, yourself being here before me, you always think about what the Blue Jackets are doing, how the Blue Jackets are doing, and
it's like, why is that happening?
Yeah, and now moving on and being on the inside of it, you definitely grab things from your past experiences, whether it's being with the Rangers, being with the Bruins, things that you thought worked there and you try to bring it back here. We're obviously lucky to have Don, because Don's been with so many different organizations and has seen things work and not work. But from the front office standpoint, I think you're willing to try anything in order to get those wins and get those points and get the city back into the playoffs and on from there.
Earlier in our show, Jody told a story about the early days. You were the phenom. Someone took a run at you.
Jody I think.
Jody took exception and had to, stick up for the young guy. You guys can fill in the blanks.
I think it was you, but someone got greased like on the far wall here. This is a long time ago now. And I just hopped over the boards. Play was going on, and I grabbed him and kind of broke it up, but I don't remember. Then another time I ran you. I don't know if you remember this. It was an all-star break, I think, or maybe it was an Olympic break. And Gerard Gallant, he stopped practice. He's like, you guys are brutal. Play more intense. And you get the puck on the wall here, and I absolutely just rock you. He blows a whistle. He goes, you're an idiot. Don't go after him. I'm like, well, I'm just hitting him.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories for that. I thought you were going into an after-hours story of
Jody
do that too. That's maybe a story for another time. But Jody's always had
not
my
Sunday
back.
afternoon.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Isn't it interesting though how training camp has changed? Even you go back to your early playing days.
Yeah.
Don was mentioning how the players they're so ready for camp now. They've trained all summer. Many have skated for the majority of the summer now. Diet, nutrition, sleep, hydration, everything. And these guys are so fine-tuned.
You think about it back in the day when you came to camp to get in shape, and now these guys are coming in top shape. And, if they're a percentage off in different areas, it shows. So, it's a different time. The game's evolved, and these guys come and show up to camp and try to earn a spot in the best shape possible.
Who excites you? You watch it. There's so many. We've highlighted so many of these young players. Who excites you?
Yeah, so I like watching Denton Matejchuk. Obviously, I'm a little biased to some of the prospects just because I've been following them for a few years now. He obviously scored a goal there in the net front. He's a little undersized, but he makes up for it in heart and grit and hockey sense too. He's always in the right spot.
Is he gritty? Yeah.
Gritty play? Yeah. He plays with a lot of battle. I thought the free agent invite panel Femus has looked pretty good. He was one of our top players in Buffalo. He scored the first goal in the first period there. He's been pretty impressive. Also like to watch Luca Pinelli. He's obviously playing in Ottawa and almost put up 50 50 last year. So he's an exciting prospect that we'll be watching.
Yeah, both those players, right? Naluka and Pano, huge numbers in the OHL. Right? You mentioned the goal scoring there from Pinelli, but they jump off the page. You look at what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah, you hope it transfers into the pro game. You know, it's a little different when you're playing against 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and then you get out against guys like Matthew Olivier, Jack Johnson, Erica Branson. The game suddenly changes pretty fast.
Talking with Rick Nash here. Second half is underway. It is 2-1. And the team in white, and goals from Denton Matejchuk and Curtis Hall. Pano Fimis with the goal to open the scoring for the blue team. Rick, 8 preseason games, quite a bit. And as Dean Evison has talked about, everybody's going to get a chance. They will get a look within the next couple of weeks. I mean, what do you think about the opportunity just to evaluate and potential jobs that are on the line here through 8 preseason games?
Yeah, well, you can tell the intensity around camp has been pretty high. You know, it's a brand new management, brand new coaching staff. I think these players want to put their best foot forward. And, you know, 8 games may seem like a lot, but I think it's going to give guys an opportunity to show, you know, a new coach and a new GM and president what they can bring, because one of the messages has been a clean slate to start camp.
Who doesn't like a clean slate? You know, and it's good. I mean, if you're a third-year pro, especially kind of up and down, we were talking with Don about David Juracek. And, you know, that's a kid that expects more opportunity, but I think that just kind of reading and listening to what everyone's saying, he's going to start to realize that development and that growth is going to give him a longer career.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think you know, it's important to have these guys understand you know, that it takes time, and you know, especially for defensemen, you know, it really does take time to have an impact in the NHL. And you know, why play in the NHL and play a few minutes when you can get proper development and, as you said, kind of extend your career. So it's sometimes tough to explain that to guys, but I think you're right on, Jody.
Rick, isn't it interesting that the trends in the game, and now it seems like heavy hockey is back. I look at Florida, Vegas winning the Stanley Cup, Tampa Bay Lightning had a very big defense. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Matt Rempe with the Rangers last year. And Dean Evison here in this camp already has been pleasantly surprised by the size that he's seeing with his team. And some big boys out there. He was talking about Voronkov yesterday, and just he didn't realize how big he was. What do you think about that current trend that right now we're back to heavy hockey, and especially on the blue line, you've got to have some size and some jam out there?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It seems like the teams that have success, the teams that win, and you know, other teams try to follow the blueprint there. But it's working in that way. You go to Buffalo, you look at the prospect tournament. You know, there's so many guys over 6'1", 6'2". It just seems like size is coming back into this game, and heavy hockey is just kind of circling back in. You know, we haven't really seen the true power forwards kind of exit the game, and it got traded in for skill and edges and you know, being able to turn off hits in the corners. But yeah, you can tell by everyone's roster, and that was an eye-opener for me in Buffalo, was seeing everyone's size on their team.
I love it. I mean, size and character, it's something that really never leaves the game when you look at the Stanley Cup playoffs, and especially the finals. You know, like, you always hear about that third line or an unsung player or a player that, you know, sacrifices, or it's that commitment. And I think that I just think that seeing Olivier, Rempe get into it last year, seeing how New Jersey had to go get McDermott because they had Rempe. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like, okay, this is good. But is it hard to find guys like this now in junior? I mean, there's no fighting. Quebec League has no fighting. They banned it. That's where I came up. OHL has a cap, right?
Correct.
Of like 5 or 10.
I believe it's 3.
3 fights. College never had it.
No.
So I don't know where guys will learn how to fight or figuring it out, but I guess there's only one way to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny going through all these last 4 years of Traverse City, and you know, you only saw a few. This year in Buffalo, it seemed like there was a lot more.
Was there?
I don't know if you noticed that, but it seemed like there was
3 in one game. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like it's coming back. How do you find these guys? I don't know, Jody. You probably know better than me. It's
you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to make a team. That's it. Like if I go to you, Steve, and be like, you know what, we got a lot of guys that are 5'11" and are good with the puck, but
and I'd be like,
if you play with some courage and stick up for your teammates, you got a chance.
And I do it in a heartbeat because I might be able to make $1 million.
Well, you can say you want to do it until you try it. And hate it,
trust me,
like,
I would never.
No, but
if I
maybe you would.
If that was my ticket, I'd be all. That's your path.
Well,
like that's what's going to get me there. I'm going to do it.
You could tell 100 players, and I bet you how many of them would actually do it.
Yeah, I'm sure Steve might be a little surprised by who would actually.
Have you ever
do it,
seen
right,
my
Jody?
hands? I mean, I would have no other path.
Yeah,
I have no hands.
It's right. It's funny though with the cap system these days. You know, it's not like the old days where, you know, you got 5 spots open with the amount of contracts that you can have, and you know who's on one ways, who needs waivers. It's, you know, it's kind of sad, but there's only a few spots that are truly open. But you know, I always say guys are gonna fight for ice time too, and power play time, and PK time.
Yeah, we were talking about Sillinger, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but last year he comes in. The first year was a good year. He had success. Second year gets injured, kind of chasing it all year. But last year you feel like he defined his role, right? Win face-offs, kill penalties. But that's his now. Once you have that baseline, then you can work up from there to try to be on the power play, be on the second line or first line. You know, you got to have that, I think, as a pro athlete, kind of what you are, what you bring that's different or adds to the team.
Yeah, it's a great point, just because in the position I'm in with development, you're trying to carve a path for these guys to the NHL. And, you know, I think the reality of it, some of these D-men aren't going to come in and take Zach Werenski's ice or Damon Severson's ice, you know, with the contract situation and all this. So to touch what you were touching on, Jody, what's the next best thing? Okay, well, you got to be good at PK. You got to be able to play 5-on-5. So, like you said with Cole, he kind of edged his, you know, his pathway to get ice time, and now that he has that, now you can start working on that next step of getting on PP or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think, you know, I look at Wayne Simmons. That might be a bad example. But there are guys in my shoes who kind of work their way out of fighting. They played their way out of fighting all the time. And you envy that. You know, I don't know if Tom Wilson is a good example either. Here's a guy who's known as a real physical guy, still is, but he's a top-line winger.
Did you get close to working your way out of it?
My closest was with Torts, and I got to New York at the trade deadline. And he was so fed up with half the guys he kept playing me, and I was like, this is awesome. 14 minutes a game. But then I signed in Philly, and Labby didn't play me at all. But you know, I always think back, and Jared Bowl and I talk about this all the time. If we would have, and his dad used to tell him every game, Jared, just go out there and play tonight. He'd be like, yeah, Dad. Gloves off, fight. Well, we wish we would have played more. You know what I mean? Played a little more.
Yeah, you had good numbers in Halifax.
Halifax, but then I just locked them up here.
Yeah, and Buller had good numbers in Plymouth.
He was a good junior player.
Yeah. But like you said, it all goes back to what you had to do at the time to make the team.
And then, you know, you got a guy on another team, and he's on the ice, and you got the puck, and you're thinking, all right, this guy's going to come want to beat me up in 2 seconds. I better save my energy and dump it in and wait for him. I think I got on the power play with you once, maybe. With Gerard Glant.
Well, speaking of, we have our first power play. I believe it's the 1 minute variety.
Yeah, what are we looking for here, Rick?
1 minute power play here in the scrimmage?
Yeah, let's. I think our power play units were out before practice. All those guys working on the power play. So this should probably be just some simple things getting the puck to the net.
Hopefully Curtis Hall's okay, took a high stick, and thus the penalty call here. So our first power play in a 2-2 game. We got 13 and a half to go in our second half. Rick Nash, kind enough to join us here in the broadcast booth, Director of Hockey Operations for the Jackets. There's Denton Matejchuk wearing number 5. Matejchuk and Juracek.
Wait a second. I remember you were killing penalties too, right? You killed penalties starting with Hitch?
Yeah, you're right.
How good was that for you?
Oh, I loved it.
Did you?
You got more ice time, right? Hitch explained to me, if you want to be one of the best players, you have to be able to play in all situations. And so I ended up killing penalties for the rest of my career, and I absolutely loved it.
It's hard to explain why it's so successful, but it isn't, because I think it's the only tactical part of the game where your roles are so defined. You read off each other. It's very, very
predictable what the 3 other guys on the ice are doing with you, right?
Yeah, PK for sure. The other one's, PP, 5-on-5. There's so many different things going on. With PK, you're kind of reading off each other and you're sticking to the system, but you're right. Yeah.
So you enjoyed it. And I always enjoyed doing it in practice, but I forgot you did that. Did that help you on the power play too, you think, or just keep you in the rhythm of the game?
Yeah, I think you understood teams' PKs.
Yeah.
I think you could get, you could figure out where the holes were. You could figure out how your PK gets beat. I enjoyed it. Like Hitch explained to me way back in the day, you want to be on the ice as much as possible. So if that's the case, you have to learn how to play in every single situation.
Yeah.
Hey, Dean Evison, very good penalty killing forward back in his
Oh, was
days.
he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
You were going deep.
Played hard and a penalty killer, and hopefully he can bring some of that to the Jackets. Done a lot of special teams work here, Rick, early on, which Sean Corrali was talking about. Just like pretty much every day, I think they've worked power play and penalty kill.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a big part of of the NHL now. If you look at most nights, if you win the special teams battle, I mean the stats on that of you winning the game goes way up. So I think Dean wanted to get right to it to make sure we improve from last year on the PP and PK.
Did he ask for your input?
No, not yet. Not yet. I think he might wait until if they're ever struggling or anything. But I think they got some great guys down there with Mike Havlin running it.
Let me ask you something. Doesn't the PP work better when it's from behind the net? I mean, in your experience.
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends what the PK's doing. Do you mean like the bank passes?
Getting the back of the net, shrinking the box, and then getting it high. I guess you could do it both ways, but I always liked it when it was behind the net. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely get their eyes turned. Looking down ice, it can open more up. I always liked working it off a shot first to try to get the PK scrambling a bit.
Shot from the side or
anywhere. Just I feel like that's when scoring opportunities start, is once you get the puck to the net and you get the PK kind of running around a bit, and they're not they're not so much in position is what I've always liked.
I always like Claude Giroux on that wing. He was like the quarterback, right, in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Thought he was one of the better guys in the wing position. They're on the flank.
Yeah, he was good. Now the Pittsburgh Penguins power play, that's something that has to change severely.
That's bad. They struggle.
I think they need to get back behind the net. You know what I mean? Just go lower. Put Carlson on that flank. Because he's an offensive player at the blue line. And if you're a penalty killer against that, you know he's taking those risks and making those plays. You're almost poaching him a little bit, aren't you?
Oh, I'll always love to poach on a PK. That's for sure.
I'm gone.
Yeah, you got to be thinking offense all the time. But no, you're right. You can kind of not only do you start reading power play systems, but you start reading tendencies from the individual too.
Yeah.
So.
Don Waddell, nice save. Jet Greaves there, sprawled out in the crease. Rick Don was talking about how every team in the Metro has improved. Pittsburgh power play is going to be better than it was last year. The Devils are going to be overall much better. How tough is this Metro division?
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be really hard. It seems like most teams in the Metro are kind of reaching that window, of their time to win, obviously with the Rangers and Devils and Islanders. All these different teams are kind of expected to be for sure playoff teams. So, it's going to be hard, but you're going to end up playing against all those guys anyways, and it's just a matter of getting some points when you do get in those division games.
Hey, before we let you go, Rick, I got to ask you this, because we both got kids. We're out, we're running around, hockey, whatever we're doing in town. When a Blue Jackets fan comes up to you and asks you, how is the team going to be this year, what is your answer? I'll tell you what mine is.
Hopefully better than last year.
That's what I say. I don't even use the hopefully. I just go all in. Better than last year. And some of the fans will be like, well, that's not saying enough. I'm like, well, hey, that's where we're going. We're going to be better.
Yeah, it's funny. We obviously want to win. We want to have a winning product. We want to win for our fans. We want to win for the city, for ownership, for our players. It's a hard league. there's 31 other teams that are trying to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just, it is what it is. But we're doing everything we can around here to bring a winning product here for the Jackets.
Hey, congratulations on the new role. Thank you very much for your time here. I'll let you go watch the last 9:40, but we really appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me, guys.
Rick Nash, Director of Hockey Operations, just got that role
Thanks, Nasher.
on Friday. Thanks, Nasher. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
So good.
Glenn.
Well, Glenn gets a shout out on the broadcast.
Darn right.
You got fans
Sunday.
everywhere. I mentioned Stinger earlier. Fans lined up along the glass. You could see them on the far side of the rink. So we're having some fun here, Jody. We got 9:20 to go. Why play 4 more periods? I'm cool with it. I just like seeing the game action.
Easy.
Yeah, that's true.
Pace yourself, Steve.
That's true. Hey, how about the burst of speed from Owen Sillinger there a minute ago? I love that.
Yeah, shifty player skated into that puck.
Wow.
Almost finished it off. Yeah, he's
Just under 9 to go in the second half. 2-2 score, so it's competitive as well. And as you watch the action on the ice, we'll remind you that new this season, don't miss the Pick 6 Flex Plan presented by Franklin University. Choose the games you want with savings. Up to 20% off single game ticket prices. Plus purchase before October 16th and receive a bonus ticket to see the Blue Jackets take on the Buffalo Sabres on Wednesday, October 17th. You can get yours today at bluejackets.com/pick6. 2-2 score. Jet Greaves off to our left. Evan Gardner off to our right. Another 18-year-old, the 18-year-old goaltender. He was the 4th goalie taken in the 2024 draft in Vegas back in June. Doesn't turn 19 until January. One of those 3 draft choices from 2024 that are in the scrimmage today.
I like how they got a good mix of really young kids and some good older veterans here in this scrimmage.
I agree. A lot of experience. Then you bring in like JVR.
And it's not 4 lines. It's like 2.5 lines and, 5D. So everyone's getting lots of ice time. You're getting to play with each other.
And that's why I said the JVR signing made total sense because he's a great guy. Awesome influence in the dressing room.
Yeah, no.
Ton of experience. Also can help. We've been talking about special teams. He can help on the power play. He's one of the best in front of the net. There's no question the Jackets have got to be better on both sides of the special teams, and JVR can do that. His deflections, his net front presence.
Yeah.
That, to me, was the biggest no-brainer. I love that move from Don Waddell.
You want a jacket? Jean-Luc?
No.
You're not cold in here?
Not
Jean-Luc
Special
Grandpierre.
Special guest, Jean-Luc Grandpierre, part of our broadcast team.
A.K.A. the hyphenator.
What's up, guys?
What are you seeing out there?
A lot of speed. Much more speed than when we're on the ice, you and I, Jody, that's for sure.
Hey, you were one of the fastest guys in the league when we played.
In a straight
and
line.
You still, that's right. That's right.
We were talking about I'm trying to get on the ice here in Columbus. You were going to organize that, and I let Jody and Rick Nash know that my hands are a disaster. You're not going to get the puck back from me if we get on the ice together. Hypothetically, if I was out here, I would try to be tough. Of course, I wouldn't, but if that was my path to the NHL, I would try to do that because that would be my only path because I have no hands, no vision.
And that's the thing. You have to find your path, but now you look at the level of skill from these young players is incredible. And I always say, like, a lot of these AHL players now have the skill set that, a third liner used to have in the NHL 20 years ago. It's only getting better and better and better every year. It's incredible.
Well, how's everything going with you? We're just trying to catch up and you're anticipating the start of the season. It's day 4 of training camp.
Yeah, it's nice to be back in here. Great crowd. Actually, I was over in Indianapolis over the weekend looking at some car races.
What were you watching?
The IMSA, which the Carrera Cup, Porsche 911s, etc. So went down to Indy for that. Now back in the groove of things here at the rink and cooling myself off. But it's nice to catch up with obviously the fans that are packing this place here today and then see the guys on the ice.
Have you talked to Giesenslaw at all? I know he's covering the Reds daily.
Yeah,
he's always antsy to get to hockey at this time of year.
Yes, the Reds obviously not part of the postseason this year, so for him right now he's starting to ask about a lot about the team, what's going on, the coach, Steve, which you haven't met yet, right? So you got
I did, yeah, at a
you?
morning skate a couple years ago. And I believe he came on our show, our old show on NHL Network. He was a guest at least once or twice. So he was one of the men. You were, I think, the first person to text me, and everybody else. You were number one, and then the text when I got the job just came flooding in. So I appreciate that. Your note, Brian's note, Jody, everybody, and just being so welcoming to me. I just can't thank you enough.
Rimmer texted you, didn't he?
I called him. I made sure I called him, and to get his blessing and to be a great resource. He immediately said, whatever you need about moving, and Jean-Luc, you said the same thing. Jody said the same thing. Whatever you need to help out, if I can be of any assistance, just let me know. So I can't thank you guys enough.
Did you try to sell your car yet?
Yes, he did, actually, among other products. And I said I got one, and I've got a refrigerator too. I got it all covered. It was nice of him to offer.
Awesome.
I can't wait. I'm glad to know that Jeff is going to be stopping by throughout the course of the season and saying, I look forward to seeing him in the broadcast booth. Yeah, he said he's going to have a presence here during the course of the year. So, yeah.
I wonder if they'll let him in the building.
Well, we'll get his pass renewed, and we'll get him a guest pass.
That's right.
He has the lifetime pass. What he's
yeah,
of course
he does. Of course.
He's Dylan Gambrell with a chance.
I just hope he's listening. I like giving Jeff a bit of a hard time.
I hope so too.
Did he leave his heater behind for you? His
space
heater.
Wow! Hey,
that's a staple of the press box.
I know.
Yeah.
I know how these NHL rinks are. I could bring one on the road. That'd be great. Jean-Luc, I don't know how much of the scrimmage you've watched so far. You mentioned just overall the speed. Any players standing out to you or anybody that you really want to keep an eye on today?
Obviously, Denton Matejchuk, who scored earlier, he's one guy that I'm keeping an eye on. Then the other one for me, really, Jed Greaves, is he hasn't been tested all that much, but like the goaltending situation is going to be interesting to see how all three goalies do during camp, because I think Greaves most likely is penciled to be in the American Hockey League. You never know what's going to happen with injuries, but next season he should be here with the Blue Jackets with a big team, and he wants to have a strong camp. So throughout camp, he's one of the guys I'm going to keep a close eye on.
How about Greaves? 926 save percentage in the AHL playoffs last year.
He's incredible.
If that doesn't give you confidence going into the following season, I don't know what will.
Yeah, he's an athlete, and you got a chance to meet him a couple of times.
Just yesterday, yeah. Actually talked to all the goalies. I talked to Elvis, Tarasov, just getting to know them, and I talked to them over the years, just in locker rooms at morning skates briefly. But just get to hear what they had to say, what they worked on in the summer. I know Elvis was talking yesterday about just taking some time away from the game, just purposely getting away from hockey altogether with his mindset, and he and his family traveled all across Europe, and just a refresh, a reset for him. And Tarasov also same thing, working on different skills. So it's nice to hear about their preparation and the mindset going into the season. Yeah,
absolutely. It's important for everyone, whether in broadcasting or on the ice. It's one of these things now where hockey has become, especially for pro athletes, it's a 12-month-a-year sport now, where it seems like you're on the ice every day and you never stop. But just stepping away and refreshing your mind and your body is key part, and I'm glad Elvis did that.
This kid's fun to watch, Gavin Brindley. Expect to see him quite a bit.
Yes, and it's an interesting situation for a lot of these guys too that did not get drafted by Don Waddell, and have never played under Dean Evison.
Yeah,
and it's almost like this is your first camp all over again, because they don't know about you and you're trying to make a good impression. So I bet you this is much more nerve-wracking for a whole lot of players than if it was the same staff that was back.
That's a great point.
So to me, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Olivier's stick got caught in the door there.
Yeah.
So he pretty much had to push the wall in to get the stick back out. Or maybe it wasn't his stick, but he was the one who got it out.
He was the strongest guy.
Pressing the glass in. See if we got it here. Just a shot. Olivier wrapping the puck around the net. I like this feel of this camp, though, don't you? It's not crazy. It's not like he's not beating them up with skating and, grueling tests, but they're being pushed. Like even this scrimmage, it doesn't seem like it's. Remember our scrimmages? It was all
you told that story to Steve yet?
Wars.
About our first camp here?
Which one was that?
I think it was 2000 or 2001.
I told him where Doug McLean had to lean over and be like, Shelly, we know you can fight.
Yeah.
Show us if you can play some hockey.
He stopped scrimmage right in the middle. and brought all the players down and said enough with the fighting, because that's all that was happening.
Yeah.
Guys were running.
It was
everywhere.
unreal.
But you know what, at the same time, we're talking about the return of heavy hockey all around the NHL, and Rick Nash made a really good point that up in Buffalo, there were fights everywhere.
Yeah.
There were 3 in one game, and it was way more intense.
Did you go to that? No.
No,
it
I
was
did
just,
not.
It was
Yeah.
just scrappy. It was you saw, and then
Steve went.
you look at the resumes of the players, and not only do they have a bunch of penalty minutes, but they put up 50-some points in junior. So there was no question. It was very intense and pretty rough. Some nastiness there.
Yeah, and obviously this is inter squad, so this is completely different.
Yeah.
But when you're in those young tournaments, you know that you're with the cream of the crop, right? Everybody has skill, everybody can score. So guys are trying to find a way to separate themselves from the rest of the crowd, and that's why you see a little bit more fighting than you typically would see in a regular NHL game or AHL game. So good on the young guys to recognize that you got to do something special to open some eyes.
Talking with Jean-Luc Grandpierre here in our broadcast location from the Ohio Health Ice House. 2-2 score. We are getting toward the end of our second half in this afternoon scrimmage, day 4 of Blue Jackets training camp presented by Ohio Health. Preseason will get underway tomorrow in Buffalo, 5 o'clock game. All the preseason games will be aired on the radio. 8 exhibition games. So a chance for everybody to get in, get some game action, and as Jean-Luc said, try to impress this new regime, new coach, new GM.
Is this going to a shootout?
Is it?
Is it?
That's the one thing I don't know.
I think you're right.
Automatic shootout? I could use a little 3-on-3.
I think there will be, maybe 3-on-3.
I could use a little 3-on-3. Why not?
You got to make the people happy, right?
With the Jets on, Gavin Brindley.
Tried a little backhand toe drag there. That's confident. Oh, their hand-eye coordination's off the charts.
James Malatesta, another player, got a look at the NHL level and talked about that, his confidence. He got a taste of what it's like to be in the show, got 11 games, and trying to take that and build off of that going into a new season.
Yeah, and for him, he's a guy that, you look at Dean Evason's career, Dean Evason's stature as a man, and I bet he's got a soft spot in his heart for a guy like James Malatesta.
Yeah.
A little undersized that plays with a lot of fire. So for him, it's a great chance again in camp to open some eyes and hopefully crack the lineup, and if not, be one of the first call-ups, obviously.
Well, a guy like that he came up at a perfect time last year, so impressionable with just his hunger. You notice him on pucks. You notice him around pucks. Intensity in the guys' faces of the opposition. So there's a spot for that on this team for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a guy that understands his role, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Big scoring juniors and playing for Patrick Roy, who obviously prepared him extremely well for the pro game, and he understood that his role may change a little bit in the American Hockey League. And you look at what he did last season, he was playing that grind game because he knows that's what's going to take him to the next level.
It's amazing that guys that don't figure that out.
Well, it's hard sometimes.
It's hard to do it. You can talk about it and be like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier because Mearsey were going to say, yeah, Mearsey, if your only way to make the NHL was to fight, would you do it? He was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, for sure. I'm like, yeah, a lot of guys say
sure?
they'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many guys have we seen that have been in the Blue Jackets organization? Big in size. They've been told, hey, if you play physical and stand up for your teammates, you might get a chance. Yeah, I'll do it. But it's hard to do it.
It is hard. But, you look at, for me, David Savard is the best example ever, right? A guy that comes out of juniors and had an incredible offensive game. And then you look at him now, he's still in the league making a ton of money.
Right.
But this is a shutdown as a defenseman as it comes, right? Mr. Block shots. He didn't do that in junior.
Right, you got to reinvent yourself. You got to find a way, find your niche in the game, and it's like the old cliche, everybody was a scorer at some level.
Exactly.
Well, I can't picture him anything else.
I know.
I can't picture that guy offensively.
But he changed his body. He changed everything about his game.
His beard.
And now, past the red line, he doesn't even look down.
Somewhere at some level, he had like 100 points somewhere. You go way, way back. But okay, so we 2-2. Regulation comes to an end, and are we going to get the old shootout?
I don't think so.
They did the shootout yesterday, Jean-Luc. What did you think?
Did?
What did you think about? Oh, nice salute to the fans here. Came out, and rightfully so. That's great to see. And the fans appreciate it. What a turnout this afternoon. Beautiful Sunday afternoon in Columbus, and the players appreciate all the support with the building packed. Yeah, Jean-Luc, they did the shootout yesterday, and the players lined up on the bench. They raised their sticks, placed their bets if you thought the guy was going to score.
Oh, really?
And if he didn't, you had to do a lap doing over and back. So I like that. He did that. Dean did that with both groups, and the guys had a ton of fun with it.
That's
and,
awesome.
Jared Boll, he had his stick up in the air for every single one, so he did a lot of skating.
That's awesome.
Brutal. Good seeing you.
So, hey, 2-2, final score. Just the start. We're just getting going here with this Blue Jackets training camp. Jody, it was a lot of fun working with you. Jean-Luc, always good to see you. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Welcome to Columbus.
Thank you.
Officially.
Thank you for all your hospitality. Thanks to everybody, just the entire community has been so welcoming. I'm not surprised knowing this city and this area, but it's so great to see fans here and some smiling faces at training camp, and can't wait to get the preseason going tomorrow. I'm going to be going to Buffalo, your old stomping grounds.
Are you going to
I'm
Buffalo?
going. I'm
You're
going up
out?
there and just going to be a spectator.
You're going to Buffalo?
I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, preseason opener 5 o'clock, and can't wait. First of 8 exhibition games.
He's going for the pizza rolls.
Oh yeah.
That's
They're
where
good.
he's going.
They are good.
That's-
You
Are you
little
going? John
little
Luke, I missed
marinara
it. Are you
sauce?
going?
No, I'm not.
No.
Are you?
I'm not going. No.
A lot of young talent on display, guys. This was a lot of fun. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thanks to all of our guests, too. Don Waddell, Trent Vogelhuber, Rick Nash, Jean-Luc Grandpierre, and thanks to you for watching here this afternoon. For Jody Shelley, Jean-Luc, I'm Steve Mears. Look forward to talking to you this season. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.